Hey guys, let's get more news from Steelers, but first don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave your like. Speedy Eagles former starting receiver bolts for Steelers. After 4 seasons with the Philadelphia Eagles, wide receiver Quez Watkins is joining the Pittsburgh Steelers, per ESPN's Jeremy Fowler. The Eagles' wide receiver group will look a bit different in 2024. A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith will have a new supporting cast next season. Not only is Watkins departing, but the Eagles signed a pair of veteran receivers in Devante Parker and Paris Campbell. Philly could also select additional wideouts to compete for a roster spot in the upcoming NFL Draft. Watkins' best season came in 2021 when the receiver posted 43 receptions for 647 yards and a touchdown in 17 games, including 12 starts. The veteran was sidelined for a portion of last season with injuries. Watkins notched 15 catches for 142 yards and a touchdown in 9 appearances in 2023. The Eagles selected Watkins in the 6th round of the 2020 NFL Draft with the number 200 overall pick. Watkins became a key part of the offensive rotation, making 25 starts over his 4 seasons in Philly. The playmaker posted a blazing fast 4.35-second 40-yard dash time at the 2020 NFL Combine. NFL.com's Lance Zierlein compared Watkins to J'Mon Moore heading into the draft. Early entry prospect with adequate size and speed but needs to prove he can rise to the occasion against NFL competition, Zierlein detailed in his pre-draft profile of the receiver. Watkins' confidence has been affected by level of competition and his catch focus appears to change when he works into traffic. Hip tightness limits route effectiveness, but he runs well enough to work vertically and across the field with modest separation and above-average jump ball talent. His leap in production is a good sign, but if he doesn't do a better job of getting away from press, he will have a hard time making it. The potential outweighs the concerns, and he should be a day 3 selection with a shot at becoming a WR4/5. Watkins joins a revamped Steelers offense that features a new quarterback group headlined by Russell Wilson. Pittsburgh also traded for Justin Fields, but the team has emphasized Wilson is the projected starter. Watkins will be competing for a roster spot with a talented group of receivers. The Steelers' wideout group is headlined by George Pickens, Van Jefferson and Calvin Austin. Watkins joins additional receivers including Dez Fitzpatrick, Denzel Mims and Marquez Callaway, who are all fighting for snaps. As for who will be throwing them the ball, Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin noted that Wilson is in pole position as QB1. We're not resistant to competition, but as I've mentioned several times of late, I just think it's appropriate to establish positioning as we get into this thing, Tomlin told reporters on March 25, 2024. The term that I've used is Russell has pole position. And why do I use that term? Because during this time where we're not formally working, man, I just think it's beneficial. For the Eagles, the front office still has some cap room to work with in order to potentially make additional moves. Spotrac projects Philadelphia has $33.5 million in remaining cap space heading into next season. Tim Benz, credit where credit's due. Steelers at least trying to act with the urgency they promised. After the Pittsburgh Steelers concluded their 2023 season, the 7th year in a row without a playoff win, owner Art Rooney II stated that the team was operating with a sense of urgency this offseason in an effort to end that drought. I think there's an urgency, Rooney said in January. I think everybody, myself, Mike, Tomlin, guys that have been on the team for a while, TJ, Watt, Cam, Hayward, everybody, we've had enough of this. It's time to get some wins. It's time to take these next steps. So, yeah, I think there's some urgency here, for sure. There was plenty of reason to be dubious of that statement at the time. Rooney and the rest of the front office have repeatedly stood by Tomlin as a head coach despite stewarding the franchise's longest playoff win drought since the Immaculate Reception. The organization has done nothing but promote or retain offensive coordinators, Randy Fichtner and Matt Canada, since Todd Haley was fired after the 2017 season. The last defensive coordinator chosen outside of the organization was rehiring Dick LeBeau before the 2004 season. Prior to last season, the Steelers were willing to spend big money to retain their own players in free agency but rarely spent big on the open market. Even when they got lots of credit for acquiring new players in free agency last offseason, their assets were largely spent on guards, second-tier inside linebackers, and short-term veteran contracts in the secondary and along the defensive line. So, when it came to Rooney's decree, skepticism was warranted. But let's give credit where credit's due. It's apparent the Steelers are at least trying to shake things up in 2024. It's not often an NFL team dismisses 3 quarterbacks in one offseason, especially when all 3 started multiple games on a playoff team the previous year. However, Mitch Trubisky was released, Mason Rudolph was allowed to leave via free agency, and Kenny Pickett was traded just 2 years after the organization made him its number 1 pick in 2022. The franchise filled those voids by signing a 9-time Pro Bowler in Russell Wilson and acquiring former first-round pick Justin Fields, who is entering his 4th year, in a trade with Chicago. That's acting urgently. Well, it's urgent by Steelers standards, mind you. Their QB depth chart shakeup is drastic. Although, the cost is anything but that. Wilson and Fields combined to eat up just $4.5 million of the salary cap. That's a pittance for the top 2 QBs on any depth chart. That said, at least the Steelers finally spent big money in free agency at inside linebacker by signing Patrick Queen for $13 million a year. That's after 6 years of trying to replace Ryan Shazier in any other way possible. Plus, the team signed return specialist Cordarrelle Patterson on Tuesday, just a few hours after the new kick return rules went into place. I don't necessarily consider myself or describe myself as aggressive, General Manager Omar Khan said at the NFL meetings in Orlando on Monday. I owe it to the Steelers Nation to do everything I can to get to the Super Bowl. I'm confident by the time we get to the season we'll have the right 53 guys for us. Also, the Steelers made a statement by washing their hands of players who were building a reputation of being malcontents. Pickett wanted a trade after the Wilson signing. They got him out of town. Steelers signed 6-time All-Pro to 2-year deal, report. The Pittsburgh Steelers have been one of the NFL's busiest teams over the past couple of weeks. They've already brought in a pair of big names at quarterback to fix their issues at the position and added one of last season's All-Pros at linebacker. They've also traded away their old starting QB and a former Pro Bowl wide receiver. On March 25, they made a few more moves as they continued to shape their roster. They signed wide receiver Quez Watkins, quarterback Kyle Allen, and defensive end Dean Lowry. Now they've gone out and added another veteran in free agency. According to ESPN's Adam Schefter, the Steelers are signing former Atlanta Falcons running back/wide receiver Cordarrelle Patterson to a 2-year contract. Patterson was drafted late in the 1st round back in 2013 as a wide receiver. Unfortunately, he never panned out at the position, but he has shown off plenty of other skills during his time in the NFL. He put all of those skills on display over 3 years with the Falcons. His biggest contribution in Atlanta was as a running back, which is a position he hadn't played much in the NFL previously. He ended up taking over the team's starting job from Mike Davis during his first season in Atlanta and ran for 618 yards and 6 touchdowns that year. Patterson also caught 52 passes for 548 yards and 5 TDs. He also returned 18 kicks for 434 yards. It was the most productive season of his career. He entered the next season as the team's RB1. Patterson ended up sharing the backfield with Tyler Allgeier, but still had a solid year. He ran for a career-high 695 yards and 8 touchdowns. He added 9 kick returns for 284 yards and a touchdown. This past season, he lost much of his role in the offense after they drafted Bijan Robinson, but he remained a factor in the return game. And you fan, what do you think of the Cordarrelle Patterson situation? Leave your opinion in the comments.